Hi, I'm Brian Malarkey and I'm speaking on behalf of Kieran Finn, Henry Brusecki, Katie Gilmartin, Kevin Blewett and Connor Brady, and I'm going to be telling you about why we chose 5 of our URLs for the WebQuest project. The first site we chose was plsqltutorial.com. This site provides an easy to understand introduction to PLSQL. It is a well laid out site and includes examples of what the user should be getting used to and clearly states and explains what the different sections of a PLSQL block are, as seen in the picture below. The next site is on SQL triggers. This link comes from the IBM page and it provides a more in-depth view of the SQL triggers and their uses. It is well detailed and provides plenty of information for the user to gain a full understanding of the SQL triggers and their uses. The site splits up the learning into a number of sections which are found under triggers and also provides a number of code examples which can be seen on the right hand side below. The next site we chose is packed with information and we chose it for a number of reasons. This site clearly explains what the constraints and triggers are. It explains deferring constraint checking and gives an example of how to use deferring constraint checking using the chicken and egg problem as a possible scenario where deferring constraint checking would be used. It briefly explores catching exceptions in error handling, provides a link with more details about error handling, goes through the basic syntax of triggers, provides an example where triggers are used, shows how to display trigger definition errors, illustrates how to view defined triggers, gives an example of how to drop a trigger, briefly shows how to disable a trigger, explores in detail what error messages you would get when a trigger results in an error, and it explains what mutating table errors are and how to avoid them. Our next link is to sqlteam.com. This website was chosen as it gives a clear and concise definition of what an SQL trigger is. It lists the different kinds of triggers that there are and when they should be used. A real-world example is given of SQL triggers in use. It gives detailed information about the insert, update, delete, and instead of triggers, and pieces of code are given with each trigger to demonstrate how each trigger can be used, which is always very helpful. When to use SQL triggers. SQL triggers have a lot of value. They allow for data audits, validation and security checking, which is formatting of data before and after insertion to database, perform checks before insertion. For example, if the user has exceeded their credit limit, the system can respond with a message to that effect. They enforce referential integrity, i.e. deletion of one row will ensure deletion of directly related data. Issues with SQL triggers. They can make it difficult for a new programmer to grasp when the triggers occur as they are not explicit in the code. It can be puzzling to track down if they haven't been told about the triggers, and that there can be several triggers, making it quite difficult to follow the flow of triggers. It is important to ensure that there is good documentation. And that is all from our group. Thanks very much for listening.